What if I told you your spoonful of sugar is linked to unchecked pollution and rampant political corruption? Today we're going to be talking about Florida's first supervillain, Big Sugar. Number one, we're going to be talking about U.S. Sugar and Florida Crystals specifically. These two companies are, to say the least, bad. They are bad not just for Florida, not just for the environment, but also for our economy. U.S. Sugar and Florida Crystals are similar to the Monsanto Corporation, if you know what that is. The Monsanto Corporation was a very, very evil corporation back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, similar to the Chiquita Banana Corporation. They used a lot of nasty, underhanded tactics. They were very, very bad to their workers and also very, very bad for our economy. U.S. Sugar and Florida Crystals, they own massive, massive plots of land around Lake Okeechobee, which is near central Florida, a bit south of Orlando. And they utilize this land, and they utilize it profusely. The way they use this land, though, is what I take issue with. Because they own all this land and it's all agricultural, they are free to do what they want, like farming. And farming is just the tip of the iceberg of what they do. They employ a lot of tactics that farmers really aren't supposed to be doing because of restrictions. So, they use a lot of phosphorus because phosphorus is needed for sugarcane. Because if you didn't know, sugarcane doesn't really naturally grow in the Everglades. It doesn't naturally grow in almost any wetland for that matter. It's a Caribbean product that is able to grow over there where there's a lot more minerals. The Everglades, it doesn't really contain that many minerals. The Everglades is kind of like a wasteland. You can think of it almost like, not the Sahara Desert, that's not a good comparison. You can think of the Everglades more as a product of years and years of how Florida has developed, and over time, the Everglades has been used and abused consistently. And the way they abuse it is by dumping phosphorus into a place that has no natural, well, it has natural phosphorus, just not much. Not as much as they are giving it. The natural phosphorus the Everglades does have is almost, you can compare it to a nickel versus 100 billion gallons of what the phosphorus is actually needed in the Everglades. Because they're dumping so much phosphorus into the Everglades, that allows toxic algae to breed and destroy the native ecosystem. Now you're just thinking, all right, big deal. Native ecosystems come and go, they die all the time, they change all the time. An invasive species moves in. The problem with that is because the plants in the Everglades are dying, we now have to fix what this company has done. They are making taxpayers pay just roughly around $1.5 billion per year to repair the Everglades because of the damage that this company has done. So not only are they making mistakes, they are making us pay for their mistakes. They are making us pay for their misdeeds. And you can chalk this down to negligence. It's not negligence. The effects of this were known long before they started all these projects on the Everglades. They didn't need a scientist to tell them that dumping phosphorus in a naturally low phosphorus area was a bad idea. They did it anyway. That's what a lot of these big companies do. They keep going until they're stopped either by the law or they're forced to stop by some other political organization. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the political organizations that these guys are affiliated with later. But now that we know we have to pay to fix the problems they create, we're going to talk about more of the problems they create, the pre-burns. What a pre-burn is this company burning these sugarcane plants because they're easier to harvest without having to manually chop down the roots, hire more people, so it's super cheap. They get to burn everything and then pull the sugarcane out of the ground, right? Cost effective. Think, that could be smart, right? What's not smart is doing it near a populated area. That's where the real issue I take with this is. There is a few communities around the Everglades, notably Belle Glades, notably Pahokee. These are very, very poor communities. These communities are not equipped, are not funded to be able to fight big corporations like U.S. Sugar and Florida Crystals. They don't have the funding that Palm Beach, Broward County, or Miami-Dade County have. They have no funding to fight back through these corporations. All they can do is watch as their local community gets flooded with ash, soot, and smoke. And they can't do anything about it. They just have to watch it happen because they have no money to fight back. You can't push out a corporation like Florida Crystals because they're polluting your local ecosystem. I wish it was that simple, but it requires a lot of money to do that. The soot and ash is also linked to lung cancer. It's linked to asthma. It's linked to a lot of diseases that are given to these people, and they have no funding to fight against these huge companies. That's already pretty sad, right? But now we're going to get into the worst part of it. Because you don't necessarily need a lot of money to make a change in a local community, right? The problem is you're going to need a boatload of money to make a change in a community that involves Big Sugar. Big Sugar is not just some small little business, some small company. They are deeply ingrained in Florida's economy. They are one of our main exports. And that's okay. You can be one of our main exports. What's not okay is the constant campaign donations that they are giving to these politicians to constantly put up roadblocks to make sure that all these little ecological studies and these honestly quite helpful roadblocks for the Everglades ecosystem are constantly put up. They don't want you to fight them. They want to pay people so you can just go away. They don't need you here. They don't need you fighting for your human right to breathe. They don't want you doing that. All they want you to do is consume sugar, and consume sugar at insanely high prices through trade protections. Yes, trade protections can be important so we don't undercut each other and other economies don't undercut ours. The problem is we are selling sugar at almost like 5 times its global value in the US because they just want to make more money. They can do things cheaper if they focused more on trying to study how to make it more cost effective and how to make it safer for the environment. But what they choose to do instead is much more malicious. What they want to do is they want to pay a whole bunch of corporations, they want to pay a whole bunch of campaign leaders to make sure you're not going to be able to fight. They don't need you to fight. They want you to pay a higher price, and they want you to deal with all the mess they make through their own means, while we ask them not to make the mess. They are the most powerful lobbying group in Florida, and it's not even close. Big Sugar has so much political power in Florida. It is probably donated way more money than you realize to our local economy, and not our economy. It's not donating money to our economy, it's donating money to just our politicians. The companies of these years past, like U.S. Sugar, Monsanto, Nestle, Chiquita Banana, they want you to forget their crimes, and they want you to pay to clean up their mess. It's unfair, it's despicable, and they are still subverting the law by using legal bribery means because of the lobbying system we've allowed to run rampant over the years. I'm not the biggest fan of lobbying, and when companies use it to take advantage of poor communities, of an underdeveloped state, underdeveloped countries, it's wrong and it should be changed, and we do have the power to change it. The problem is they just have more money than us. You like what you saw? Subscribe. Thanks for watching. See ya.